Get ready for the ultimate dose of inspiration and knowledge with the Give Me 5 podcast. Host Chris Gilmour shares actionable tips on a different topic each episode. Tune in now and elevate your life with Chris Gilmour.
Yeah, it was good. So I'll do this clap again. Okay, we'll go. All right, so pretty good. 3, 2, 1. Oh, not bad. I think not bad. I bet you been sitting at home, man. Yeah, man. And my hands are just like so damn sore. So, can we just get into it? Yeah, go. Like, you always just bang on about shit at the start. Hey, right? You know, like the 3 seconds is what's going to capture it. Okay. And we're still banging on. Okay. All right. So, welcome to another episode of the Give Me 5 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Gilmour, and we have Mr. Josh Smith, the original.
Hi, guys.
Josh Smith. You always go, hi, guys. What about the ladies?
Hi, ladies. And those who identify as whatever you want to identify as, welcome aboard as well.
That's a whole new different podcast.
That's fine.
Right. We're not going down the Jordan Peterson or Ben Shapiro road. All right, because that could really... absolutely. Mate, big news. We had our biggest listen week last week. Last week's last episode.
What, a podcast review? Yeah. Is that right? How many?
Oh, I've got to get the exact numbers. It was our highest.
Okay.
So
what do we talk about?
I reckon we spanged on a bit of shit, didn't we? I don't know. Probably just flop it off. People are probably wondering, those that are watching this on YouTube, what's the hammer for?
Today's topic.
The hammer.
The hammer.
And we got some chocolate because to try and get through this one. So we're going to do a little game. Whoever's right in their statement
not in them
is going to get the chocolate. So they're probably going to come over this way because I'm always right. Right. So, but what we thought there's going to be like, this is the number one debate in real estate, and we're going to talk about it.
It is one that we hear about a lot for sure.
Auction. The hammer. Yeah, this is our shitty hammer that we have.
It is pretty cruddy. Look at it.
Yeah.
Bent all over.
Yeah, absolutely. Super tools. So it's probably a $10 hammer from Bunnings that we got for the prop, right?
Yeah.
So in auction terms, they use a gavel, right, which is a nice wooden, fancy looking piece of shit.
Or a rolled up
piece of paper.
And paper and...
Right, whatever. I don't understand it. Anyway, the number one and the hottest topic, which we always love debating, private treaty versus auction.
Yes.
Can we put some really scary music to that?
Don't.
Yeah. So,
let's talk about
pros and cons.
Pros and cons. And
that's going to be really short, depending which one.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So where do you stand? If you had to choose the number one way to sell a home right now, would you go auction or would you go private treaty?
Ultimately, that question comes down to a case of what is the house and where is the house? I mean, that's where we can get into things.
But isn't that a myth?
Yeah, no, well, okay. Like just straight out, for example, when you consider the idea that for us here in Queensland, where we're running an auction campaign without a price and we cannot talk price at all.
It is. Okay, so
versus in some states where they can.
Explain that to the listeners. So, because I had an argument with a buyer on the phone last week. Yeah. I wasn't even looking for an argument. And he was up in me, right? He rings, he goes, Chris, because we were running an auction on the flood property out at Logan Reserve that
we sold, by the way.
Under the hammer. Boom. Yeah, good old Mark. And anyway, like the buyer rang and he said, oh, what price guide are they looking for? And I said, unfortunately, same spiel I always say, if we're running an auction under Queensland law, we are not allowed to give price indication.
Yep. So for anyone who's watching that doesn't know, for us here in Queensland, we cannot give price indications in any way, shape or form. So when we're running an auction campaign, we've got to
give them comparables,
potentially, maybe be able to indicate some other properties that have sold, but we can't actually get into talking about the price at all. And that, quite frankly, gives plenty of people the shits.
Absolutely. But like this dude that rang me, and I'm like, man, really sorry, I can't. He said, yes, you can. And I'm like, mate, I'm telling you now, I know my legislation.
I'm from Victoria, and so all I know votes.
It wasn't until later in the call that I ascertained and then went, oh, now I understand where you're coming from. But I asked him, I said, well, what's your budget? And he goes, oh, no, that's against the law. I'm not telling you that. And I said, okay, so we're going to have a Mexican standoff here, mate.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you anything.
Yeah.
And you're not going to tell me what you want to spend.
Yeah.
He
I've
said-
got an idea. Why don't you come and have a look at the property, and if it's suitable for you, turn up on auction day and bid wherever
That
you
was
see
the next thing I said. I can't. I'm in Sydney. Ah, okay. So you guys have a different law down there. You guys, if you're running an auction campaign, you're allowed to tell them a price guide. In Queensland, we can't.
Yeah.
And then when I explained that and we both sort of got around it, understandable. He was that buyer.
He's the one that bought
He
it?
was the one that brought it.
Okay.
Yeah.
See? So there is still a way. But one of the probably the number one thing that we get when we're talking, certainly when we're talking to, and I guess there's a couple of different ways that you can assess the discussion around to auction or not to auction. You can look at it the side from the buyer's perspective,
Yep.
and you look at it from the side from the seller's perspective.
Yep.
On the buyer's side, the number one thing for us up here is, but we don't have any idea of how much they want. Can't be bothered.
So what gives the shits to the buyer on an auction campaign?
Not being up. Number one, not being up. Talk about the price. Yeah,
But that's the whole point of an auction, to remove price.
Yeah, but I guess look at the way that we go about negotiating and setting up, a competitive environment for private treaty sales.
Yep.
You still effectively get the same benefit without that downside.
Without jacking them off and annoying them right from the word go.
Yeah.
Most people want to buy something within its, and there's going to be pros and cons. This podcast is going to blow up out of all of them.
Yeah.
Right? I know we're going to get some hate mail, probably get some death threats like we always do whenever we talk about auction versus private.
Don't come at us. We've got a hammer.
Yeah, don't bring a knife and a gun.
And chocolates.
I got my jellies, right? So I'm good, right? And my orange juice, freshly squeezed orange juice. So I got my LED light and I've got my juicing machine. Like I'm just like happy as pig in mud, mate. Right? But right, so from a buyer's point of view, let's talk about from the buyer's point of view. They hate not seeing a price, right? They hate not being able to generally make an offer early because most agents are going to hold them out under an auction campaign. Generally going to be 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. So there's going to be a lot of pros and cons here around the auction method.
Yeah, okay, but you could dig even deeper into it though, and look at it and say, in fairness, how many of the people that get the shits around that sort of thing are maybe people that just at the end of the day are just not going to be able to buy that house.
Yep.
Either that they can't afford the actual price range of the house, or they're not able to buy under auction conditions. Because you look at it and say, people that have the budget and have the ability to buy under auction conditions don't tend to get jacked off by it all anywhere near as much because they go, oh, well, I'll turn up, I'll make my bid. If it's me, it's me. If it's not, it's not, because they know that they can.
Yep. Okay.
So
do you think from a seller's point of view though, do you think they miss a lot of buyers by taking a property at auction?
absolutely.
Would you buy at auction?
If I was able to look, if I was looking at a particular property and I was able to purchase that, meaning that it was in, I absolutely knew that I had my finance set around that price range,
Sure.
had the right amount of necessary deposit, and was absolutely sure, then 100% I would buy at auction, because I know that the auction process, certainly for us here, excludes about 2/3 of people.
Yeah.
So
like
from the buyer's
rates are like 34%. Right?
From the buyer's perspective, you can absolutely, and this is where I guess it gets to be the controversial topic, because all of the companies that ram auction down people's throat, that they say it's absolutely the number one way to get the most amount of money, you can look at it from the perspective and say, as a buyer, if you're able to buy under auction conditions, it's the number one way to enter into a buying arena where you know that you've excluded a whole bunch of competition over the side, and you get to be able to go, oh, it's only me and that dude over there that are here bidding. All those people over there might well be prepared to pay a whole lot more, but can't buy under auction conditions.
So how does an agent win a seller, right? Because most homes we walk into, they go, nah, don't want an auction, right? But every day they see auctions being listed, right?
Yep.
So they use this spiel.
Especially on fancy TV shows is where they see it lots.
When they've already got the buyer.
Yep.
But anyway, that's a whole different podcast.
Yeah.
But like, let's just go, from an agent's point of view, what they're going to say to a seller when they're sitting down at the table, dining table with a seller going, method, do you want to sell it with a price, no price, auction? Because there's a million different ways we can do this. What are the benefits of an auction? Well, let me tell you the benefits of an auction. We're going to find a cash buyer, not going to rely on someone that needs finance, and there'll be no building and pest. Okay. So there goes 8 out of your 10 buyers. So we're looking for 2. An auction arena works really well with multiple buyers and competition. But that's the spiel that they'll use. Cash buyer, unconditional on the day.
Yep.
However, your best buyer might walk in week 1, right? We can go through so many possibilities, like pros and cons here. If your best buyer walks in on day 1 of the campaign, right? Doesn't matter how long the home's been in the market, it's how long that buyer's been in the market. Day 1 it comes on, but the auction's not until 30 days later. Day 1, buyer comes in, can't buy it, has to go to auction. Week 2 comes along, another home very similar, ticks all the boxes for that particular buyer.
And they go buy it and you lose them.
Right, and they've got a private treaty or they've got a much easier way of purchasing that home. You've just lost your best buyer because you've held them out for 4 weeks when another property's listed. So there's pros and cons. Either way,
this is where I would say, if you're looking at an area where, the houses are not cookie cutter, all very, very similar one after the other. I mean, I've never looked at a property in Toorak, but I imagine suburbs like Toorak in Melbourne.
20 million, 30 million, up to 80 million.
And they're not all one like each other sort of thing. You go to a situation like that, there's this one unique property, there's not another one like it. You can make an argument in an area like that where, the buying market, the people that are there in the market have got the money, are able to do so. That's their world.
Yep.
Okay, in an environment like that, I absolutely see where...
So you'd go to auction if that was the case?
If I had a house down there, I would probably want to have a look a bit deeper into the results.
But you just said a house down there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you're in Parramatta, Toorak or Yarrabilba.
It depends on but Yarrabilba, there's 10 more like it.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, down the road.
So if you owned a property here in Logan and it was Yarrabilba, Flagstone, right? Where these are Springfield, where these are mass communities of land lease, Delphin,
quite similar homes,
and they're all the cookie cutter homes, 4 bed, 2 bath, 400 square meter block, and there's 48 of them on the market.
Yep.
Would you go to auction? Would you price?
No way in the world would I go to auction.
Why not?
Because one, you're going to
competition of other homes.
Well, and because you're going to eliminate so many buyers based on the fact that they can simply go look at another one.
Okay.
Why are they going to have to go through, for a lot of people, the extra work that's involved to get yourself into a position where, just from the finance perspective, to be in a position where that you can bid on the day, most people are just going to go, too hard. They can't tell me a price. Don't know how much is. They can't tell me a price, so I can't even go and see, the finance people to get that. I'm just going to go look at the next one.
Yes. So what you're saying, make it easy for your buyer.
Absolutely.
In your marketplace, right? So let's talk about
makes it harder for the buyer to buy the home.
Resistance
is a negative.
Yep. Okay. So Flagstone, Yarrabilba, Springfield, those sort of Waterford West, whatever those sort of areas are, right? But mainly first home buyers, predominantly
a lot,
right?
There's
so they don't really have that savvy buying, knowing how to negotiate. They're emotional. It's their first home. So going to auction, I know for a fact a lot of people just go, you know what, I'll take the risk. There's 10 others. If this one sells, I'll just move around and look at this.
We just know, from experience with selling properties in those areas, the amount of time where you see the situation where, like how much deposit, especially when you're talking the first home buyer market, how much deposit have they actually got?
Yep.
And, where they've basically, they've been and seen a lender and they're shopping at the absolute limit. And even to the point where in certain situations, it's going to come down to whether a bank valuation stacks up. There's just so much opportunity for it to not fall within the box there. Why would you?
Do you think though a lot of sellers are won over when an agent walks in and says, no building and pest, there's no finance condition, it is just this really clean contract?
I think ultimately it's a case of, look, at the end of the day, all of us in the business of real estate are ultimately in the business of marketing. And any company that is a dedicated auction company have a spiel lined up to be able to go in and say to people, here's why it's all so wonderful. And if you sit and listen to, someone who's dedicated at auctions, does a lot of auctions and is successful at doing auctions, pitch it, it all sounds great.
Yeah.
It does all sound great.
Do you also...
But then you also see the other side of it.
Well, what if like what they don't talk about though, right? Let's just say the clearance rate here in Brisbane is 34%. So when someone talks clearance rate in simple terms, 34%, meaning if 100 auctions on Saturday went ahead in Brisbane, 34 of the 100 actually sell. Under the hammer, yeah. Right? And then what the agents will also do, they'll mask it. If it sells post-auction, it's still sold under auction.
Yeah,
well, that's a load of
a lot of them sort of give themselves like 72 hours.
Yeah, or a week.
If it sells within a few days after,
within the week after,
we were negotiating the direct off the back of, they still called and which sure,
So what should a seller should say? What is your clearance rate under the hammer?
Yeah,
not post auction or pre-auction.
But it's still also in my head, it always brings you back to that thing of, how many times have you seen where you turn up to it or you turn up to an auction? And we went through that period last year where we did, in probably 8 months or something like that, we did more than what
we have done
16 years.
Yep.
And it was a great little window where it was the right thing to do, and we had a lot of success. But even in those situations, what you would have, mate, 3, maybe 4, whatever it is, people there bidding.
Yep.
And we're still achieving great prices, and that's ultimately the outcome. But you look at it, and you still look and you go, there was, how often were there people off to the side?
There was 20 waiting.
And the truth of the matter is, you just never know whether or not one of those people would have actually paid more.
Yeah.
That's you just don't know. Now, but to answer the question about like the building and pest side of things, sure, if you've got a house and you know that there's some problems with it, and in a building and pest inspection these things are going to come up, then absolutely that might be one area where, that idea of, I just don't want to go through all of this fine thing and then have it fall over.
Yeah.
Let's go to auction, therefore it can't be. But even with that having been said, how many of the auctions that we did we just like go and organise a building and pest inspection in advance and present that to every serious buyer, so as they, like, that wasn't going to be a...
Yeah, so we even recommend that with private trading. If you're going to the market with a price, get the building and pest done. It's the best $500 investment I think any homeowner can make prior to ever selling their property, because they can't...
Certainly with once homes get past a certain age...
7, 8 years, we start to see some issues, with some stuff. But, you can get issues much, much sooner than that.
Yeah.
The two big things for me, and this is where I'm going to cop the backlash for, right?
Yeah.
I have worked in a franchise group. You've worked in more franchise groups. I started with a franchise company.
Yeah.
8 months later, didn't like their direction.
Yeah.
Because they were only pushing newspaper and auctions 16 years ago, right? So I said, you know what, I'm going to start my own company without all that bullshit. I know that you've gone through the system of the large franchise groups.
Yeah.
We know in their training that the reason why the franchise companies really push their agents to go to auction is it's 4 weeks on the market. It's more exposure for the agent. It's more exposure for the agency, their brand.
Well, I remember.
Is that a myth? Or is that...
I remember going through one of the lots of training, and that was in the days when an agency agreement was 60 days, not 90 days, and a lot of homes took 60 days or maybe more to sell. And part of the training was, the straightforward question of, so how do you sell twice as many houses? Only hold the listings half as long. Take them to auction. Get them put through in 30 days rather than holding on to them for 60 days. As the agent and as the agency, you can sell twice as many houses that way. Not what's the best for the seller. sure, there's a pitch, but the training was very much, here's what it is about being best for the agent and exposure and for the agency.
Yep.
And then it was obviously, you know, and again, back in those days, and I guess this is one of the big things that maybe a lot of people don't understand, where, you know, I guess where the background on selling by auction came in. You know, when we're talking back in the days that you would go and take a photo of the front of the house, typical selling. You know, private treaty, you go take a photo of the front of the house, put it in the window of the office, and then someone would sit there on roster and wait for people to turn up and look in the window, and then you'd go out and, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer,
Jump in the back seat of the BMW.
Come and sit down first, and let's go and take you through and do all of that. You know, the benefit of an auction and even at that stage with those typical listings, you know, you'd be out there as the agent trying to sell newspaper advertising, which would be one of those, you know, like, you know, my little office would, you know, like get a half page ad, you know, in the paper on the weekend, and so there'd be 12 or whatever it was. So it was this one tiny little photo. Whereas as soon as you went and sold an auction campaign, the number one thing was, you need to invest a whole bunch of money in much more substantial advertising, bigger ads, more comprehensive ads with more photos to promote that property. So the benefit of an auction was, it wasn't the auction itself, that the marketing was better. That was the reality of it. It's the method of marketing an auction property was far more comprehensive and got the property more exposure.
Okay.
Well, so why wouldn't you want to do that with
Okay, so let's just say there's a myth out there that auctions cost so much more than a private treaty.
Because they did used to way back when there was all the extra newspaper advertising.
Still have that sort of mindset. I'm not going to go to auction. That's going to cost thousands of dollars.
As we know, it's only the only difference is the cost of the auctioneer,
which is how much?
Arguably between $400 and $700, probably depending on which one you're using.
Correct. Yeah, but the average is $550 to $750. For an auctioneer. So for anyone listening, that myth is busted, right? The only difference by running private treaty and an auction campaign is the cost of the auctioneer. Right now, back 15 years ago, it was completely different.
I mean, I suppose first up, you would say in today's real estate market, if you're not doing everything in your power to market the property to the highest level that it can be marketed, regardless of the method of sale, then you're doing yourself a disservice, or as the agent, you're doing your client a disservice.
Some people still don't even do floor plans, man.
Oh, they do little ads. They go and take, you know, like
video doesn't
iPhone, sure does.
You know, sure does. Radio. Yeah. So all right, so that myth is busted, but like that is what was in the training. Go to auction, agency gets 4 weeks of campaign. Yeah, we won't sell a
much higher profile for you as the agent.
That's going to lead to more listings.
Use the homeowner's money to promote you.
Yeah, so that's not a myth.
That's part of it. Like
absolutely.
That's part.
That's where that's right now where the auction agents right now will be going, Chris, you're a dick. Like this is bullshit. Right? No, we're going to expose it because we know how they train. I mean, that's how we're taught to train.
Yeah, and it's you know, some of these franchise companies get stuck in their ways. Then I mean, I know that there's one.
I've been around for 120 years doing it this way. Do you think they build cars the same now?
I was looking at one of the ads recently for one of the groups, which is one of the groups here in Southeast Queensland that's got multiple offices. You know, and on, I think it was on their website that I was just looking at it, and you know, on there, this is why you should list with us. Like literally the second thing that they list is because your property will be displayed prominently in our office windows. What are you talking about?
Yeah, okay. Back in 1983, it might.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I bought one property that way out of a window. Happened to walk. Yeah, that was 2003.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pre-realestate.com and domain on the internet.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been, mate.
Yep.
Because I was around when it just broke from newspaper into online.
Well, that's what I remember. Like when you started this company, when I was working for one of the franchise groups, and you made the decision to go digital, like
Absolutely. We went
complete
no auction
way. Yep.
and no newspaper.
Yep. And I was out there like, you know, running around going and telling people that absolutely, you know, that's like newspaper, that's the way that houses get
Bullshit. All right, so what about this as a myth or a concept? This is my belief, right? On my show, I'm entitled to
keep
my
going.
opinion.
You should have one of those in advance.
I've had a couple.
Because you're clearly going to be right on this next point.
Right. With an auction or in an auction arena, they say it's going to produce the best possible price. That I don't actually believe personally, right? And I'll give you the reason why. We've got two buyers here, right? We've got two buyers here, right? And you got the homeowner here that owns all the cookies, right? Let's say the reserve has been set and the auction, because I think the auctioneer plays a massive part in the actual sale. But let's just say they get a mediocre or a junior or someone in training or someone that just doesn't know or is not really that skilled at it, right? Yeah. It's pretty easy to get your auctioneer's license. Hello. You know, like any of us can get one, as much as we don't want one. But, you know,
they're easier to get than car drivers.
Absolutely. You got a heartbeat, you pay your course fee, mate, here's your auction license, all right? And you got to just blah, 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 blah. Right? Easy, right? Most real estate agents can talk shit. Yeah. Pretty easy for them, right? But we got the two buyers trying to buy this home. Now, let's just say this is $1 million reserve, right? And it gets to $1 million, right? And it slows down, right? And the auctioneer hasn't used we're on the market, because some auctioneers call on the market where we're selling.
As soon as it happens, some of them do.
Absolutely. We've seen it.
Some of them hold it back. And
good ones hold it back.
Absolutely.
Right? A skilled auctioneer will hold that back or never ever use it. But then you watch all these jokers on Facebook, you know, filming their auctions, and like as soon as it hits reserve, we're on the market, blah, blah, blah. Right? So this buyer here is holding the bid at $1 million. Old mate goes, you know, the auctioneer's asking for a $10,000 increase. He goes, 1,000. Auctioneer's weak, doesn't, you know, falls for it and goes, oh, I'll take 1,000, you know, to keep the auction going.
Yeah.
We're on the market. He's $1,000 more than buyer A. Buyer A, right, is now done. He's out, right? He only had $1 million pre-approved. He's good, but that's as far. First call, second call, third call is how an auction works. No more further bids. We've hit reserve, bang, sold to you, buyer B. Mm-hmm. Buyer B runs away smiling, going, I still had 50 grand still in my pocket.
Yep.
So how can you tell me that? Oh,
that's it. There's that.
So there's risk.
Well, there's that philosophy, I guess, that says you don't actually get the maximum out of the buyer. You get $1 more than the maximum of the second buyer.
Absolutely. Like
that's.
And people should replay that scenario and re-listen to that. Once a property hits reserve, they only have to be technically a cent, 5 cents more. Like, you know, it's always going to be 1,000 because they'll go on $1,000 bids. But old mate, if you've got no more further competition, and old mate's still got more money in his pocket, he doesn't actually have to spend it to win that property.
No. That's it. That's once you're on the market, you're on the market. That's it.
That's right. So I think we've just debunked that. Is auction the best and the only and the number one way to produce the maximum?
Is it the way to get the absolute maximum amount? And there is certainly a perspective that you can look at and say, well, no, by pure definition, it's not the way that you get the most.
Now, right now they're screaming at us. Right, these agents listening to us going, oh, no, that's bullshit. What if you put a property on private treaty? Say you put it on the market at $999 and there was a buyer willing to pay 1.2 and they've accepted an offer at $1,050,000. Well, you know what? Who knows? So we're actually never, ever really going to ascertain which method produces the highest price. Okay. We believe we've got a method.
Well, certainly, I was about to say, like, that's when if you look at the way that we do it, run our competitive multiple offer scenarios. Look, we had that one there the other night. So we had quite a bit of backwards and forwards, and it got to, what was it, $1,097,000, and we were done at that.
Which one?
The horse property.
Okay.
And so it got to $1,097,000.
Mm-hmm.
Stopped at that. That was the highest bid.
Yep.
We then went back, obviously, and negotiated that last little bit that the seller wanted 1.1.
Yep.
Sure, it was only $3,000, but we negotiated that extra. That extra.
Yep.
You don't get to do that with an auction.
No, it's fine.
That's it. Once
that bloody hammer.
Once it's done, we got to that stage where we'd gotten the most out of everyone.
Yep.
And effectively the same situation had happened. The buyer 2 had quit and said, "That's me, I'm done."
Yep.
The lead buyer had gone the extra bit to be the highest amount, but we were then still able to go back. And get more.
Correct, because as a seller, we could still negotiate under an auction method. Once you've hit reserve, which is signed off prior to the auction, which the auctioneer is holding.
Yep.
And if the seller changes their mind or whatever, the auctioneer can still sign on behalf of the seller as well too. A lot of people don't realise that as well too, so they can't get cold feet or go, "Oh, I should have put my reserve up," or anything. So we feel we have the best method ever.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that's proof. We sell the most homes in the state. Yeah, so I think it's the most.
Well, I think the one thing to acknowledge out of the auction debate, as an isolated statement, I suppose, is the concept that when you have multiple buyers stood there eyeballing each other, throwing their hand in the air, and they've got to make a decision now.
Yep.
That is the best, most competitive environment situation. Yes, as an isolated description, that is accurate. But you still look at it and go, yeah, in a lot of cases, it's the best competitive environment for those 2 people that are able to play that game. Those 9 people can't. So it's much better off to have all the same benefits where all 11 people get to play,
and we can do that.
And no one knows who's an unconditional buyer and who is a conditional buyer and who's a subject to buyer other than us.
Yeah. So we know we've got an amazing system that allows to put, as you say, in a competitive arena, 100% of the market.
All of them.
Right?
All of
cash versus conditional.
Everyone's just looked at explaining it.
Let's talk about like the building next to us, right? It was commercial, right? They ran the auction at 1:30 on that day. We were all here, so we're like, you know what? We're going to go out to the car park and have a look.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, the seller had a reserve set. It didn't get to that. There was all this hype. It was going bang, 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 bang. And what I hate about auctions, right? And like, I'm impartial to both. Like, I do both. You know, we ran one on the weekend, blah, 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 right? But what I don't like about auctions is when it gets and it stops. And then there's this private negotiation between auctioneer and the seller or the buyer. Half the crowd leaves. So they're all gone. All the buyers that were in it are now out. They've gone because it's been 20 minutes privately done. When this one went, I still felt it was undersold. They sold under auction conditions, so it's done, it's dusted, it's final. That's great for the seller if that's what they were after. But what about the buyers that couldn't bid on the day, then and there, but have got actually more money? So that's that case of who are you excluding? So, okay, so there's pros and cons for private treaty and auction. If you go to private treaty, you've got to price it. Now, it could be undersold, it could be overpriced, whatever, but at least 100% of the market gets an opportunity at it.
Well, like I say to people all the time, you know, like when you get into the discussion about, you know, pricing and everything along those lines, I say to people all the time, the idea that when you really break it down, what is it like? What does it take? What price do you have to pay to buy any property, right? When you really break it down, it comes down to 2 factors. One, it's got to be a price that the seller will accept.
Yep.
And 2, it's got to be a price good enough to beat out everyone else who's trying to buy the property.
Yep.
And that's where the question mark becomes with the thing is, with an auction process, you only have to outbid those few that are able to buy under those conditions, and all those people over there might have paid more. Whereas the idea that what you really want is have to outbid everyone who is trying to buy the property.
And like, I'll be openly honest, there was an auction that we ran on a property and we had a pretty large crowd there, and there was a particular buyer. Now, like, we still got the result, right? The owner was happy, but I felt sick afterwards. I had a buyer that couldn't buy it under auction conditions that came up to me and said, "Oh my God, Chris, you guys just undersold that. If we had the opportunity, we would have paid a lot more than what it just sold for.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, that I walked away like, all these people, sold 400,000 over reserve on socials, and look at me. I just, performed open heart surgery.
And you ask yourself the question, how often is that the situation? The only difference is that day, that person came and told you.
Yeah. Oh, look, I've got no doubt it happens all the time. So I think there's a really good case both ways, right? You're going to get people who are 100% bent, just, and they're generally the ones who are being brainwashed by the franchise groups. I think the way we do it is much better, more transparent as well too. It's fairer, and we can deal with 100%. So I believe we give our sellers the best opportunity to maximize the most in the market without excluding anyone. And I always say to most sellers, if you're at auction, if the perfect home came up on the market tonight, are you in a position to buy that right now? And they'll go, no. I said, but you're the best buyer. You'll pay 50 grand more for that home than anyone else, but you can't buy it.
I guess the way that I look at it most of the time is like, once we run through our process and you get to the end of it and it's all done and dusted, if you just then go back and look through the actual terms of the offers and look at it and say, the way that it all played out, what was the top offer from the person that was cash? There was the cash under it. Well, like how often is that person? The amount of times that they're well down the list.
Absolutely. Because they play that cash card.
Yep.
It's not like you're bringing a bag full of cash in a Woolworths or a suitcase.
Yeah.
Whether you're getting finance or paying cash, it's the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like even the good guys don't even use the term anymore. Have you noticed all the good guys have rebranded? Pay less, pay cash?
Yeah, right.
Well, that's gone.
I haven't noticed it.
It's gone, mate. Because what they were doing, they used to do that as a slogan, pay less, pay cash. Right? People would go in there and say, how much for cash?
But that was only because they built in the retailer costs of providing interest-free facilities, which, like, if anyone does, interest-free is not free, guys.
No.
Interest-free costs the retailer a bunch of money. That's...
Yeah, but like why they changed it was, if you, like, to me, you're paying cash. What does cash mean? Cash.
Well, it depends if you're talking folding cash money.
Well, that's cash.
Yeah.
What's the other way?
Yeah, but okay, but so when, like, that whole thing of pay less, pay cash, that's because, like, if you're saying I'm looking at buying $3,000 worth of electrical goods, and as Harvey Norman or whatever, if I'm providing an interest-free facility, that costs a pile of money. So when that retailer sells $3,000 worth of goods, they basically it's taking that out of it. So that basically what they were saying is pay less if you don't want to use our bullshit interest-free facility, because we will give you what it would normally cost us to provide that facility. We'll give you that off if you're paying for cash. We still end up with the same amount of money.
Yeah.
You just get it.
Well, they've gone away from the pay less, pay cash because everyone was paying by FPOS. Was it cash?
Yeah.
It's not folding cash. So like if a buyer or an agent says to you, they're a cash buyer, what difference does it make whether it's coming from the bank or it's not cash? You get digital numbers on a.
As soon as isn't it like 10,000? As soon as you want to deposit more than $10,000 in actual cash money, you got to write up a declaration on where it's come from, and just so as we can ascertain that it's not money.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, no, that's
I'm not the one carrying around more than 10 grand cash.
If you want to put,
you're the money man.
If you want to put 10 grand cash into the bank, you've got to explain where it came from.
Well, you've got to sign that when you're flying from the airport overseas. So you're bringing in more than AUD, 10,000 AUD. So like cash is not cash.
No.
Nowadays, So if a buyer goes, it's no finance. Okay, that's okay. That holds some weight.
Yeah.
But there's all these different ways that agents will, like at the end of the day.
Well, the truth of the matter is, I guess, like if someone said, I want to buy this house for $500,000 and I want to pay cash, we're not going to let them. We wouldn't take $500,000 in cash. We would say no. Not acceptable. Go to the bank with your $500,000 and bring us a bank transfer or a bank check.
Yeah.
We're not going to sit here and count $500,000 in cash.
How long would that take? We should look it up. Google that.
Not as long as you think.
So Josh has done it before, obviously.
Yeah.
So look, I think today's topic is we're not here to smash options.
No.
We're here to just give actual fact. Like, is it the best way? I don't believe it is personally.
Well, yeah, I don't.
But that's just my opinion. We can bring in our auctioneer. Let's say different.
Agree to there's moments in time where so realistically, let's talk about when we had our 8-month run, where we had a lot of success, where we'd been through the peak of COVID.
Yep.
Right, and we were coming off the back of that. Like, you could feel, we knew we'd peaked and things were starting to recede.
Yep.
And at that point, it was a case of, so where are the prices now? And there was a level of unknown, wasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a level of...
No one knew.
Yeah, there was an uncertainty thing in that window there, and there was still people that were caught up in the frenzied part of it. We're certainly going through the point there where, quite frankly, the interest rates were so low that people's borrowing ability was so much higher that the amount of people that were easily able to afford the prices because of
it just opened the bigger.
Yeah, it was
all of people.
Yeah, it was a window there that we clearly went, hang on, exceptional circumstances here at the moment, and we ran with it for whatever it was, 8 months.
8 months, but that's in the last 16 years, man.
Yeah.
So like we saw that opportunity and we always pivot, you know what I mean? But like nowadays, there's still the same franchise groups that have been around for hundreds of years, whatever. I believe the method needs to change, right? Technology has changed it. I think consumers have changed the way that they buy. Like, they are still running auctions the same as what they were 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Everything else has changed around us.
Yeah.
The bikinis changed. The cars changed.
Yeah.
These microphones have changed.
Yeah.
The gavel's probably got an overhaul. Might have been a big Thor hammer back in the day. Who knows? Everything changes. And just because it was successful then and worked doesn't mean that there can't be a different way.
Again, I just
or refined.
Whenever I get into the conversation with people around the idea of auction, I always go down to talk about the path of, let's look back to the point where auctioning houses became a successful method. Let's look at why. And it was because there was a much, much higher level of marketing of the property involved with. That's simply not the case anymore. So you're saying that the playing field's very level now. Exactly. So the disparity between the level of marketing that went on between an auction property and a private treaty property at that time was substantially enough difference that absolutely you would get a better result because it simply increased the exposure, put the property in front of more people. Yeah. Like back in those times, if you'd have simply gone and spent exactly the same money on the same level of marketing for a private treaty property, that would have been a better result as well. So, really what it comes down to is marketing matters. So
the fundamentals haven't changed then, really. The best... McDonald's is the perfect example. What is the number one selling hamburger in the world?
McDonald's.
The Big Mac.
Yep.
All right. Is it the best tasting hamburger in the world?
No, it's not. No.
So why does it sell more than any other hamburger?
Because it's marketed better than and it's better known.
Does McDonald's still market today?
Not like what they used to do. Not like what they.
Do they still market today?
Yeah, there's absolutely still lots of.
Just Coca-Cola still market today.
Yep.
Do these companies need to market today? Do you think they'd survive? Absolutely.
They would, but not as well.
That's right. So marketing works, no matter how big you are.
Yep.
That's the fundamental of it.
The more people that know the house is for sale, and the more, how often do we talk to people about it? And when the ideal buyer walks into the property to look at the property, if they walk in and they're the only person there, human nature, you can almost see people go, beautiful. I'm going to get to have this my own way. I'll put in a low ball offer and I can take my time and let them sweat and play that game. versus they walk in and there's 25 other groups of people there. They just don't even get to consider that as an option. So ultimately, that component is always the best thing. The competition, there's better ways of creating the competition than by going to auction.
Okay.
They'll probably hate mail.
Oh, mate, we will have people with daggers waiting at the front of our office. How dare you? Because no one talks about it. No one, they're just so set in their ways.
I mean, in fairness though, if that's what you know, that's what you've been taught, that's what you've been shown, and here's the spiel as to why it's so wonderful, go out and...
And auctioneers will always spruik it because...
How good?
That's how they get paid. Like, let's
do the maths, people. When an auctioneer's doing 10 auctions on a day on Saturday, and they get
50
and they get 500.
Well, a decent one's at 750.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? And they'll be booked for 10 a day, 8 a day.
Yep.
Like, it's good money, man. Like,
and the auctioneer gets paid whether it gets sold or not.
It doesn't.
Yep, absolutely.
Where the agent doesn't and the auctioneer does. But look, does an auctioneer play an integral part of 100%? You will admit that, yeah, they do.
Well, like in absolute fairness, when we had our real successful run, our auctioneer at the time was exceptional.
Yep,
exceptional. You know who you are. Cheers, man. You did a good job.
So, but he moved.
Yep.
So, but anyway, and then we had to find a new auctioneer.
Yeah.
And just didn't gel. Yeah. Just didn't know how to work a crowd. Was failing. So now we're on to another one, and we've had 100% success rate.
Yep.
With these guys. So so yeah, they do play an integral part. Are they worth their $750? 100%. I think they are. You know what I mean? But they make some pretty decent money if they're booking 8 every weekend, whether that home sells or not. So it's one of those things. So private treaty or auction, I think there's a couple of myths there that were busted. I think we've given some very valid points both ways.
Yep.
Don't hate us.
No, right. And if you want to talk about it more, if you'd like to know whether auction is right for your property or not, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about it.
So, well, we'll probably talk them out of it.
Well, but if someone wants to genuinely come and say, explain to me pros, cons, why not?
Yeah, we can go out.
Sit down every single time and go, look, here's how we do things.
This is how other people do. Choose the way that you want to choose.
Whatever you think is the right thing for you. So, but done.
All right.
That'll probably cover it, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. We'll close it off there.
There was inevitability this one had to be done anyway. So.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while. Auction versus private treaty. So there you go. There's another episode of the Give Me 5 podcast. Auction versus private treaty. We would love to know your comments. What do you think? Have you sold via auction?
Yeah.
Or are you an auctioneer or are you an agent? Would love to hear your commentary around it because everyone has an opinion.
Yep.
Which is the best way.
Yep.
So best way is whatever you choose.
Yep. And you know what? At the end of the day, like, we can at least have a conversation around it, can't we? That's
a good debate.
It is a debate. It's going to be right for some people. It's not going to be right for other people. Right. And at least you can access the information and get two sides of it.
I think I've been pretty fair. Like, I could have smashed auctions a lot harder and I didn't eat all the chocolate. So
you will as soon as we stop.
We're off there. So there you go. Josh is dying.
I'm going to go and die.
Yeah. He's coming off COVID, so you should probably wear a mask.
2-time COVID.
2-time, yeah. I'm still yet to get it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be one of these people that go, you've had it and you just didn't know about it, well, have I had it?
Oh.
If a tree falls over in the forest, does it make a noise or not?
Did it really happen?
Did it? Does it make a noise or not?
Oh, no one really knows.
There you go. So these are the questions that we need answers to. So stay tuned for the next podcast. Thanks for listening.
See you all. Bye.